Good evening, and welcome to a new edition of Urban Sentinel Live. And I'm your host, Reggie Kearney. And I'm just going to sit down tonight. We're going to have some jibby jab tonight. Just going to talk about some current events. Just, nice, easy night, okay? So I'm glad that you all are able to tune in to Urban Sentinel Live tonight. Thank you all for taking time out from your busy schedules to spend some time with me, listening to my wonderful I have tonight, Krista Glenn. She's got her own podcast and she's doing good things. So thought I would sit down with her tonight, talk to her, find out what she's doing. And we're going to discuss some issues that are pertinent to the Black community, but we really want to focus on the month of March, which is Women's History Month, so that's what we're going to do. So, Krista, where you at? Where are you? Come on in.
Visit Here me. I am. Hey, how are you doing, Mr. Reggie?
Hey, I'm doing fine. And, if y'all look at her name, it's Chris, also known as SmartVideoGirl. I like that.
Right. Thank you so much.
Girl. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the name of your podcast also, right?
Well, my podcast is called Introducing with SmartVideoGirl.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So very, very, very original name. I like that.
Thank you.
Originality. Yes, I like that. So how you been doing?
I've been doing good. I'm busy, which is good. I say, I'm booked and busy, so that's great. I love it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Just a little background history. Chris or SmartVideoGirl knows we have a good friend in common, Dr. Dula.
Dr. Dula.
Who's a great community activist in Prince George's County. Very knowledgeable when it comes to Black history. And he's a person that lays a lot of nuggets on you, okay? He's full of nuggets. Full of good nuggets. And I tell you, regardless of your age, you need some nuggets sometimes to guide you on your path. But those nuggets he be dropping, our young people really need to listen to him.
Yeah.
And respect what he's saying, because we've got some terrible things going on in our communities now, and we really got to address those issues. So to get things started, Smart Video Girl, tell me something about your podcast.
Well, my podcast is called Introducing with SmartVideoGirl, and on my podcast, I introduce people, new things, and new ways of thinking. It comes on we're on at the same time, so it's going to be magic. The media magic is happening tonight, and I bring people in from the community around the world just to talk about what they do as it relates to their business, but then I also engage in conversation, thought-provoking conversation to help people expand their minds and different ways of thinking. So that's really what my podcast is all about. So, and it encompasses who I am. That's where the Smart Video Girl comes in. I'm like a left and a right brainer all in one, which is hard sometimes to do. So I love engaging in intellectual conversation that's going to make you think, but then I'm also a creative. So
okay, good. I know Dr. Dula has sent me a video of you. I forgot what episode. I think it was the episode that he was on, and
Okay. Yes. 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 Yes.
yeah, and that was a great episode.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thank you.
a great episode. I really enjoyed watching it.
Mhm.
Uh, hopefully, he's watching tonight, and he
Yes.
would give us a great critique after the.
Oh, he will definitely
Finish.
do that. He will give us
He
some
definitely
insight.
would do it. Yeah. So now you also have a business, also, right?
Yes, I do a lot of different things. So, I have a video production business called Only Greatness Media Production, where I do videography, photography, and graphic design.
Hmm.
And then I also am a speaker and
Okay.
a coach. So, um, I help people on their journey to authenticity. So the whole
Hmm.
smart video girl is original. I'm glad you see that. So that's who I am. So I
Hmm.
help people just on their journey of kind of holding up a mirror to themselves and then helping them work through some of the things that they have to get through to discover who they are
Hmm.
authentically. So
Okay.
that's what I do.
Hmm.
I do a
Great. Great.
lot.
Yes, I see. And for our listening audience, I want you all to check out her podcast on YouTube, and I want you to look at her introduction. Okay, and then she says she's a videographer. If you need some work done, hey, call her up. Her
Yes.
stuff looking good. Okay.
Thank you, Reggie. I appreciate that.
Yeah, her stuff is looking good. I was looking at it, I said, wait a minute. I said, now I might have to get her involved or give me something to look like that, to as an introduction and stuff,
No, thank
Great,
you.
a
I
great
appreciate
introduction. I really, the colors were great. The pictures and stuff were great. I said,
Mhm.
yeah, she got it going on. She got it going on. Made
I
me look like
appreciate
an amateur.
No, no, you look, you're doing
Like
big
an
things over here. I see you. I see you. I was like,
amateur.
okay.
Uh,
Urban
got,
Sentinel.
no, got me looking like an amateur.
No, no,
So,
no.
what what's going on in our community?
Mm.
What's going on in our community? In
What's
the black
going?
community? What's
Oh,
going
do
on?
you really want me to answer that question?
Yes, I do. We got to figure this thing out here.
Okay. So, um, I truly believe that
Hmm.
in our community um, we have settled into this state of victimhood,
Hmm.
um, where things happen to us.
Hmm.
We feel like and we're talking on the masses, okay?
Hmm.
Um, Things happen to us, we have no control, and we feel entitled
Hmm.
to things.
Hmm.
So it comes out in so many different ways. Like, and I say this lovingly because we have experienced a lot of trauma in our community. There's
Yes.
years and years and
Hmm.
years of trauma in the
Hmm.
Black community, and so it has really put us in a state of not knowing how to get over this trauma, to get out
Hmm.
of the trauma, how to face the trauma, and that's really where we are.
Hmm.
And so when you're in this state of where things are happening to you, you see no way out. You're looking for someone to
Hmm.
come and rescue you and somebody to take you and pull you up, and this is something that I truly believe is that we have to start to learn how to, one, of course, know our history. And Dr. Dula has done a great job with that. That's one of the reasons
Hmm.
why I appreciate him and love him as a mentor, because
Hmm.
he definitely is someone who's helped me on my journey, by instilling knowledge of my history and
Hmm.
who we are and where we come from and the greatness that is the Black history.
Hmm.
But then there's also the level of personal accountability and responsibility that
Hmm.
people that we have to own, in our communities, so that we can start to contribute, because that's really where I see it. I mean, it's a lot in between that, but there is this state of, woe is me, woe is us, somebody owes us something, and somebody gonna give us something, and so therefore there's no personal accountability, there's no
Hmm.
personal responsibility for our own communities. We're looking for someone else to do that, and it has matriculated into a whole different types of things, and even down to not wanting to vote. So how can you not vote?
Mm-hmm.
How can you not see the responsibility to vote yet want to say they're not doing their jobs, they're not giving us what we
Mm-hmm.
need? So there has to be that level of consciousness that says that um, I'm a victim and I'm helpless, and
Mm-hmm.
it really is almost like a mental
Mm-hmm.
issue,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And two, to add on to that, we in our community, we have to recognize and realize that there's an attack on Black America. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's bottom
Absolutely.
line. There's an attack on Black community, and I think we, take it for granted that what's going on in the red states really can't affect us, but it can. Now, I'm glad I'm living in Maryland. I'm originally from North Carolina,
Okay.
and for Mark, Mark can tell me this. It still is a part of racism in North Carolina. I think that's one of the reasons I haven't been back and live. And we do have it in Maryland because of the western part of the state and the eastern shore,
Mhm.
and the northern part of the state also. But we have a state now that, hey, we are running this state. Black folks running this state. Okay.
Mhm.
We got a black governor, a person of
Yeah.
color, lieutenant governor. We got a black attorney general. We almost had a black comptroller, but hey, couldn't get it all. But
Okay.
we are we are a state that's focused on voting and doing what we
Mhm.
have to do. But we do still have some people that don't vote.
Right.
So and people got to realize that what's going on in these red states, especially, will affect us one way or the other.
Absolutely.
And I think, like you said, sometimes we take our lot in life for granted.
Mhm.
And I mean, we got to do better. And
Yeah.
it worries me that we don't have a bona fide leader nationally to
Mhm.
continue to drive the movement. Even though
Mhm.
we have Reverend Sharpton out there and a couple others, they're not driving the movement
I agree with you.
like it need
I
to be
just
done.
recently did something on that. I was because of what I was speaking about earlier is that accountability. Like, people are actually looking for a leader, and so in the search for a leader, no one's really moving, so
Right.
then we have to start to become leaders in our own right. Like,
Mm-hmm.
leadership starts. They're looking for a Martin or a Malcolm or a Marcus. We
Mm-hmm.
really have to have more Dr. Doulas and people who are more grassroots, who can galvanize the communities and
Mm-hmm.
bring us together in that sense, in order for us to even get to a point where we can have someone more of on a national level. There is a
Mm-hmm.
huge gap between in leadership, as like you're speaking about. We have some people out there, and they've been doing it for a long time, but then in between there, what do we have?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We don't
Mm-hmm.
have a whole lot. So we need to really take ownership. And I was having a conversation with another friend of mine, and this, like, another issue is that we want to um sometimes when we do have leaders, because we have potential to have some great leaders, but it's when they get to the table, it's more of proving that I need to be here versus, listen, this is what we need to, instead of representing the needs of our people. So we need to, really do a better job in the selection of leaders, I guess, or who we choose to follow as a leader. And then when you do have a chance and when you do have a voice, to use that voice in order to really galvanize and speak up for what is going on in our
Mm-hmm.
communities.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I agree. I agree. And Reverend Barber, he was out there at
Mhm.
one time, but now he's taking. He was given endowment chair at one of the Ivy League universities. I want to say it was either Yale or Princeton, where he's at now. So he's
Mhm.
kind of taking himself, out of the public eye,
Out of the book.
and he's
Yeah.
teaching there, and he was really doing a great job making an impact on our communities. But then he's removed himself out of the picture for right now, and that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
disappointing, because he had the ear of a lot of people here in America, and he was doing a great job, but
Yep.
but the young people, the young people have to step up and fill this gap.
Absolutely.
We got a great young man who's the mayor of Baltimore, but I know he has his hands full, just dealing with Baltimore, but
Yeah.
he's someone that has the potential to rise up and be a leader in this country one day. He has that
Mm-hmm.
potential. Even our governor, um, he has that potential to be a leader, but I don't think he has the potential to be a vocal leader that would push the agenda, the black
Mm-hmm.
agenda. You know, I see him more of being a middle of the road person, making sure both sides come to the table and are pleased with what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So we do need some radical ideas out there sometimes. We do need some
Mm-hmm.
radical voices out there sometimes.
Yeah,
So
we do.
yeah. Let me ask
And
you
you,
this question.
mm-hmm.
Oh, go ahead and say what you're gonna say. Make
No,
a
go
statement.
ahead. Ask the question. Go ahead. Ask the question.
Okay. What do you think would happen if the Black Panther Party was put back in place again? I don't know the picture of what type of party we would have, but we have one that goes back to its roots, where it was a grassroots organization that provided for the community, and that's what they did when they first came out. They
Yeah.
were a mellow organization, and their only interest was to take care of the kids in that neighborhood in Oakland. And that's what they wanted to do. But they got pushed to
Right.
other levels because of that consciousness of what was going on in the community and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I think about it. I say, now if we brought the Black Panther Party back now, what would these
Mm-hmm.
folks think? I mean, they shouldn't think that. They got that white nationalist groups and everything else. What if we decided to take care of some of my misgivings and ills in our communities, that we just brought the Black Panther Party back? So what you think about that?
I mean, you see, power to the people. So I'm a, I'm a, I feel as though if the Black Panther Party came back in the essence of what it was originally created,
Hmm.
in the true essence of making sure that it provided for the needs of the community, especially
Hmm.
education, health, um, and really the self defense. And there's nothing wrong with
Hmm.
that. Like, it's nothing
Right.
wrong with
Right.
being able to protect yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think that would give rise to concern for those who are in power,
Hmm.
just for the simple fact that whenever whenever there's appears to be some type of solidarity or unity
Hmm.
amongst the black community,
Hmm.
it it incites fear. It incites fear or hatred for some reason. We see that so much. I just talked about how integration was like the detriment of the black communities now, because we weren't
Hmm.
able to have instances like the Black Panther Party, who were there to
Hmm.
keep us together and help us maintain.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
once in the integration of it, it was like, well, what do you need to have that for? You know what I'm saying? Well, why do you need to have that? It'll be the
Hmm.
questioning of why do you need to have, because with integration we got what we needed, right? No,
Hmm.
but so it was like, so why do you need to have that? It's just it so it I would see it as something great, even though now, because the way history has been taught, that some people don't
Hmm.
even some black people don't understand the Black
Right.
Panther Party. They think the Black Panther Party, it just the images is are guns and
Hmm.
just black. It's not the work that they were doing in the
Right.
community.
Right.
So even that would get some pushback because people don't really understand it. So
Hmm.
I think it would
Hmm.
just it would give rise to a lot of controversy.
Hmm.
But and if and the truth be told, there are still some of the new Black Panthers. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's one right around the corner from here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So they're here, but they're more so now really focused on social justice and
Mm-hmm.
policing the police. Like that's really
Mm-hmm.
what they're into doing now, which is
Right.
policing the police.
Right.
I see
And
them
and it
doing that a lot today.
and they definitely need to do that. They need to police the police.
Hmm.
But uh, I'm a little older than you. So I've
Hmm.
seen I've seen quite a bit now. I was part of in North Carolina. I was part of integration of schools in North Carolina in 1968.
Hmm.
That's when it was mandated. Uh, mandatory integration to schools through busing. Okay, it was mandated in North Carolina, and there was also a time in the South during that time when uh, whites in the neighborhoods, they did in the communities really didn't want their children to go to school with us, so they were opening up all these Christian academies. Okay, they called them, but at
Hmm.
the same time, if a black person went into try to apply, they wouldn't let them in and
Right.
everything.
Hmm.
But I think integration hurt us more than it helped us. Okay, when you look at today, yes, we have made a lot of gains through integration because of some of the fact we're able to live where we want to live at, we can eat where we want to eat at, we can go where we want to go, we can work where we want to work. So those things are good. But when I was in uh, junior high school and elementary school, you know, we got our books. We took them home and got the paper bag and made book covers and everything. But
Hmm.
for us, we didn't ever think the books were outdated or they were raggedy or we needed new books. Yeah, I think it was a joy when you were able to go into a class, before integration, and there was some new books because everybody be, trying to get the new book. Okay, they would bring us some new books in there every year. But we as kids, we weren't bothered. We didn't know on the outside that the reason that Dr. Ben Chavis and a lot of guys were fighting for us was because yeah, you're going to integrate these schools, you're going to do what you want to do, but we're still not equal when it comes to what we get in our schools. Okay,
Right.
that's what they were fighting for. Because like I said, we took the books and we learned from the books. Okay,
Hmm.
that was just the bottom line of it. So in a sense, if we could have, this is what I say, and I know some people probably gonna get mad for me saying this.
That's all right. Let them be mad.
Yeah, if
Hmm.
we could have kept our neighborhoods, but got better products or better books and things that we needed, I think we'd still be a good neighborhood. Okay,
I agree with you, and
a
I
lot of this
wasn't
stuff,
there for that.
yeah,
Hmm.
a lot of this stuff wouldn't be happening in our communities. That happens.
Hmm.
Okay, you know,
Yeah.
you can see what happens. Look at DC. I remember a time coming here as a kid to DC that Temple Hills area and then Marlow, Iverson Mall was the first mall in the Washington area, first enclosed shopping center in the Washington area. It was white folks living out there. Okay.
Hmm.
You get one or two blacks in the neighborhood and the white folks start running. Okay. Then you have the government, the county government in all these states that don't do what they need to do to keep these neighborhoods up. And then they started falling down or they fell down, and this is what we have now.
Hmm.
We got Temple Hills. To me, Temple Hills is the worst area in Prince George's County. It seems like every time you turn around, somebody getting killed in Temple Hills or either the Oxon Hill area.
Hmm.
So you be trying to figure this thing out because they didn't set us up to be successful.
That's right. Right. Integration was not a setup for be to be successful. It was. I feel. Now granted, I'm at 80s. I was 81, so I
Okay.
was before. After integration, but I
Hmm.
could see the effects of it in just knowing history. Like I feel as though it broke the communities, like you said, it broke the
Hmm.
communities up. It was almost like, okay, well, now you're integrated, you get what we get, but it was not that, because there was still we
Hmm.
still had, so people, we moved, we had ghettos, there was
Hmm.
public housing. It was all of these public services now
Hmm.
that really kind of hindered and put us in a disabled state
Mhm.
versus a more empowered state. So, like
Mhm.
you said, if we were able to keep our communities and to be self-sustaining in our communities,
Mhm.
but still just having some of the basic necessary resources. We're not talking about, you know, because when you think about it, and that's why it's important to know your history, because
Mhm.
we had several communities. There were several communities in the that were self-sustaining.
Mhm.
They businesses. They had all the resources that they need. They may not have been as high quality per se, maybe, but then again, they could have been. But it
Mhm.
was when it came to things like education, um, then yes, we see that there's a lack in resources. And but the reality is, guess what? It's still the same. So my
Mhm.
question is, what was the good in that? Because we still see schools in our quote unquote low income districts, which are
Mhm.
mostly predominantly black and
Mhm.
brown, that get the least amount of resources. So
Mhm.
it's still the same thing. And when you think about integration and it really being spearheaded behind Brown versus the board of education, you're really talking about education being the reason why there was this huge push to really um, integrate more things in
Mhm.
society. If we look at it like that, we're still not too much further than we were then
Mhm.
when we talk about education.
Mhm.
We're still, and now when you look at things like now when you think about what they're doing in states like Florida, we're trying to and this critical race theory and trying to eliminate black history. It's so what are we what where have we made the progress in
Mhm.
really in education when we have some of the same deplorable conditions that we had then?
Yeah. When I look at Florida, I tell people I see DeSantos as a relic of George Wallace. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
that's just the bottom line. Okay, it's a
Mhm.
different type of racism, but
Mhm.
the end game is the same.
Right.
Okay, now they have this bill they're trying to pass in the Florida legislation. I think it's HB 999 or 996 or something. Okay, I know
Mhm.
it's in the 900s, where they want schools to stop supporting state schools and state universities and stuff. Stop supporting diversity, the diversity push. Okay, so what that means, in a sense, give you a good example, is that the universities would be forbidden to give support to the Divine Nine, okay,
Mm.
to the black fraternities and black sororities,
Wow.
okay, because if they're not diversifying and stuff, painting a picture of diversity, then
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
hey, you got to
It's
go
like a
away.
reverse affirmative action type of
Yes,
situation.
yes,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
and he's working hard to get rid of Black history. He doesn't want you to learn your history and everything, but is satisfied with learning European history, uh, you know, uh, Indian history, Asian history, and other cultures'
Anything but
history,
black.
everything but Black. And we
Wow.
want, and you know, granted, it might not be so bad, whatever he's doing, if we were teaching our kids Black history,
That's right. 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 Right.
okay.
Hmm.
If we could just say wholeheartedly, hey, look, decide to do what you want to do. We teaching our kids Black history. But if you walk up to some of these kids and say, who's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., they can't even tell you.
It's a road down the street around in the hood.
And look, in Southeast,
Isn't it
you talking
right?
about, yeah, that's what they be talking about.
Right.
Talking on Southeast where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard is,
Right.
or
Yeah.
Avenue is. And that's the problem. With my kids, I have always pushed Black history, okay, because I knew the schools weren't getting it, because
Yeah.
I know when
Yeah.
my daughter was in the 10th grade, she bought a history book home, or social studies book home. I looked in there for Black history. It was on like 1 or 2 pages.
Mm.
and that was it.
That's it.
And I want to say, did it even talk about slavery? I don't even know if it talked. If it did, it was very, very little
Hmm.
conversation, very little written about Black history. So
That's
we
crazy.
have to do a better job in our own community, you know, teaching and talking about things that are pertinent to our community.
Hmm. Yeah, I homeschool my kids
Oh, okay, okay, good, good.
exactly for reasons such as what you are speaking of.
Mhm,
Because it is, it is, again, going back to what I was talking about earlier
mhm,
about responsibility and
mhm,
accountability.
mhm,
A lot of parents, um, because of working and careers and
mhm,
personal lives and what they got to do, um,
mhm,
leave the responsibility of their child's education to the public school system.
mhm,
Um, and as we're speaking about, they're not doing an adequate job of preparing our kids for what
mhm,
is necessary. It's very, you know, even in we're talking about our history. We're talking about just in general, like there's just not an adequate, you know, it adequate training and teaching for to prepare our
mhm,
kids. And I really feel like parents
mhm,
are responsible. And if I'm being honest and transparent, before COVID, my son was going to school, public school, and then when COVID hit, I really kind of got to see how
mhm,
this dynamic worked, how they were conducting the Zoom, and it was chaotic because
mhm,
it was like I realized that there was no system, and so I took it upon myself to be responsible now for his education, and since then he has not been
mhm.
back to school, and it allows you to do so much for our kids if you, but it
Right.
takes the parent being willing and responsible as well, so
Mhm,
if you have parents who aren't even involved in their kids going to school, then it's going to
mhm,
kind of be hard. Now, it was a transition, I will say that it was a
mhm,
transition,
mhm,
but now we've kind of gotten into a groove, and he understands his responsibility in his education, and
mhm,
he's more interested in learning, and I can cater his education around the things that he's good at, and I can really
mhm,
foster and work with him, and then I can see
mhm,
where he needs additional help, and then I can provide that for him. So I mean,
mhm.
homeschooling has been a great blessing. I would recommend anybody
Yeah.
who can commit to do it.
I know one time we just thought homeschooling was something that took place in the white community and the parents were doing it, which was true. So they can get the kids away from the black schools, okay? Black
Hmm.
students, But I'm seeing more and more black parents and families going towards homeschooling. I think that the numbers are they increase every year as far as
Yeah.
families doing homeschooling and everything, So
And if
that's
we
what.
talk about, and in Maryland, really, because I was concerned, I was like, oh my God,
Mm-hmm,
they're gonna ask me what we did, and what
mm-hmm,
did he get. Look, it's like they almost don't care. If I'm being
mm-hmm,
transparent, it's like they almost do not care. It's almost like you send your kid to school to homeschool your child. You basically like sign over, say, I take full responsibility for my child's education now, and they
mm-hmm,
have almost nothing to do. They have almost nothing to do with you, which is fine by me. You know what I'm saying? But when you think about it like that, it's like, so, and then when you get into the politics of what schools, and we're talking about school districts and getting funding and things of that sort, it becomes a situation where you really want to make sure that you're doing what's best for the children, best for the
mm-hmm.
child. And sometimes it may not be public education, especially if you can't take the time to be involved in PTAs and things of that sort.
Mhm,
Like, that's very important if you're going to be sending your child to school. I'm a
mhm,
very hands-on parent. I want to know who's teaching my child, who their lunch
mhm.
supervisor. I want to know all these things, and
Right.
so, and that's very important too.
Mhm,
When you're talking about responsibility in the community, you don't send your child to school so that you can do what you want to do and be free for
right.
6 hours. That's not
Mhm.
what you're sending your child to
That's
school
what, and that's what some people do.
for. Right?
It's an
But that's
opportunity for
not
them
what
to do
school.
what they got to do before the kid comes back home and
No.
everything.
No.
Okay, so let's change gears as we continue on. Who's
Okay.
someone that you look up to, being that this is Women's History Month? Who's a black woman that you look up to in the community or the nation?
Um. Well, I have the creative bug in me. I
Okay.
admire and I look up to Ava DuVernay as someone who has a creative and she uses her gifts and talents to help share our stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
as far as a woman that I look up to, she would be one of those people that I
Mm-hmm.
look up to in the community. She did Selma, she did 13th, which was a documentary. So she has really been instrumental, I think, in using her talent to contribute in a way that's maybe unorthodox that people may not realize, but really using
Mm-hmm.
her status as a director, cinematographer, producer to
Mm-hmm.
bring forth the stories and share our history in a way
Mm-hmm.
where people, especially younger generations, can get insight to what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So she's someone that I definitely look up to and admire.
Yeah, and look, you can't forget about Queen Sugar now. Okay.
Yeah, I see. That's what I'm saying. So she gives it to us, and I
Yeah,
love that. I love that
yeah,
about her.
yeah. I love Queen Sugar.
Hmm.
Great, a great
Great,
show,
great
great show,
work.
and
Yeah.
everything. Who else? Who else gives you that push?
Who else gives me that push? Let's see. I also am um Dorothy Height is someone that I look up to. Like
Hmm.
so she's a past, but Dorothy Height is someone because she wasn't afraid to use her voice, even though it was tried to be suppressed. But she definitely as someone who kind of crossed barriers and was able to use her voice to in politics, and so I look up to her as well. She's someone who stands out to me, who try to emulate in ways, and try to break barriers,
Right.
and stand in rooms and be in places that they said that I should not be. So
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
is someone that I look up to.
Yeah, you got to go for it. You
Yeah,
got to go for it. And
yeah.
everything. So look, with your videography
Hmm.
that you do, are you doing any classes for kids in the community or anything like that?
I
To.
have,
Mhm.
I have done some videography classes for kids. I haven't done any in a while, but
Mhm.
I do teach my son
Okay.
these skills. I do teach my son these skills. And I'm part of a homeschool collective. And so some of
Mhm.
the classes that that we're looking to do is doing it. Because again, with COVID, uh, it, we had to shut it down. We did a lot before COVID started. And so now we're just trying
Mhm.
to figure out ways to be creative and do it digitally, remotely. Um, but yes. And I love teaching kids. I love seeing what kids come up with. My son
Mhm.
is like an artist, so he loves to draw. So I
Oh,
love to
okay.
see the mind of kids and how they
Mhm.
create and what they
Mhm.
do. Mhm.
Good. 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 Now, how long have you been a videographer?
Uh, what's this? About 10 years now.
Okay. Mhm.
Yes, I actually started off as a again smart video girl. I went to Hampton University, and
Okay.
I received a degree in business administration,
Mhm.
um, with emphasis in accountant. So I thought I was going to be an accountant when I came out. There's
Mhm.
the left brain of me, and then I fell into entrepreneurship early in my 20s, and that's when I met Dr. Dula,
Mhm.
and I just received so many opportunities, and I actually came on as someone's podcast,
Mhm.
similar to this is back in the day in 2007, before the
Mhm.
internet radio was just getting started,
Right.
and someone said, "Oh, you can do this," and it really intrigued me because I love listening to people's stories and hearing what they had to say and like learning about their journeys. And I love asking questions. Then I realized I like to talk. And so I started hosting a show called Can We Talk Radio in 2007. And
Okay.
then, like, soon after that, I realized that just talking wasn't enough. I was a visual person. And so I could like see, I wanted to see the story. I wanted to like document, follow them around. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's where the videography came in. So then I went and got a degree in digital cinematography from Full Sail
Mm-hmm.
University. And, I love making, my passion is documentary. So I'm actually
Mm-hmm.
working on a documentary now.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
What type of documentary are you working on now?
It's called Dreams of a Vision.
Okay.
And really, the premise for the documentary is similar to kind of what we're talking about now. It's definitely about highlighting Black history in our
Mm-hmm.
community, but it's also about uniting our generations. One of the big problems that I see is the disconnect in the generations in the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a lot of that has to do with communication. And me being someone who is in media, it is my desire to use communication as a way to tell stories and to unite generations.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I'm interviewing people across all generations in the Black
Mm-hmm.
community to kind of see how they view each other,
Mm-hmm.
and to kind of document to see where we have come from Martin's dream to Obama's vision type of that time
Mm-hmm.
period, and how do we bring this all together in a united way. So kind of using the old storytelling, word of mouth, because I want to hear the
Mm-hmm.
stories from my elders. I want the new generation to talk to me about what they're experiencing, because one thing I do realize is, and I said this, the only difference between age is time. So a lot of times people forget that we were once children, we were once teenagers, we were once, getting into our own types of trouble, creating our own kinds of ruckus. It may look different, but
Mm-hmm.
we were once kids, we were once youth. And I want to kind of rekindle that, to kind of show that there's a commonality, like no matter what age you are, that
Mm-hmm.
there are still some things that you go through as a human, so that we can start to humanize who we are and to unite us as a community and realize that we all need each other at the end of the day.
Hmm. Very interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. Um, you might have Oscar on your hands. You never know.
Thank you.
Documentary category.
Thank you.
You never
Thank
know.
you.
Never know. You never know. But like I said, we got a lot of work we got to do in our communities. I mean, we when we look around at the kids killing kids, I mean,
Mhm.
that's an epidemic right now.
It
You know,
is. It
and
is.
you say, okay, this happened this week. Hopefully, it won't happen again. Then the next day it happens.
The
It's
next
like
day.
this never-ending circle,
Hmm.
and that circle needs to be broken.
Yes. It's
You know,
spiraling out of control. It's
yes,
it's
it is.
it's
It
on
is.
it's on autopilot. Like I was
Mhm.
just telling people this all the time. I was like, you we and again, that's kind of where I'm talking about this victim mentality now. It's like
Mhm.
we can't, there are definitely things, there is a war outside going on. There's a war going on
Mhm.
outside, all right? But there's also a war going on in our community.
Mhm.
And um there's a it's almost to the point where the enemy, the oppressor, whoever you want to call, can stand on the outside and watch what is happening
Mhm.
and have to do nothing, because they have already done and set in place everything that creates that has perpetuated the self-destructive behavior that we see
Mhm.
now in our community.
Mhm.
So you know that's where I say we have to start to get that accountability and responsibility, because we know, like I said, we know that these things were done. We know that they're set up by design. Do we know this? Do we
Mhm.
know? because if we know better, then we do better, and
Mm-hmm.
we make the necessary changes. But again, it really is dealing with a lot of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
We really have to um, get to the root of the traumatic activities, the traumatic events that have happened in our families. Like I said, I'm an 80s baby, so
Mm-hmm.
81. So I know about the influx of the Reagan era, and
Mm-hmm.
I was born in DC, and I should be one of those people who's caught up in the statistics, because it affected my home personally, So, but I did not, and so I totally understand it though. And I
Mm-hmm.
had friends who were caught up in their parents. So, you have, because, okay, so I'm 40, going to be 42. So you have parents of people who are adults now who have unresolved traumas. They're
Mm-hmm.
adults and they have kids now, and these are their kids are the ones now creating these crimes because there was a serious strategic breakdown of the Black community in a way that affected us all. And I could speak firsthand. They labeled many of the people who got caught up in the crack era with mental health issues. They labeled it as mental health issues
Mm-hmm.
when, in fact, um, of course, it's going to be a mental health issue, but then you prescribe more drugs. So it's just like this constant attack on the well-being and the subduing of a community and a group of people. And now we're seeing it come to fruition now with the violence that we see, with the because it literally lives in our DNA. So we have to
Yeah.
learn how to we need to learn how to
Mm-hmm.
like release that trauma that we have.
Yeah.
And so it's not an easy, it's not a one-dimensional solution. Like, and that's what I need people to understand. Like, there's no one way to solve this problem.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Mm-hmm.
really have to come together, and each person contributing with love to the
Yeah.
solutions so that we can make it work.
Eventually, we're going to figure it out. You
Yeah.
know.
Hmm. We
Eventually,
have
we're
to.
going to figure it out.
We have to figure it out.
Yes, we do have to figure it out, but what's going to push us to figure it out? I mean, we can get on TV and during the news time and talk about how hurt we are about
That's
these
not
young
gonna
people
work.
dying in our communities and stuff, but we don't do nothing about it. You
Yeah,
have
that's not
some
gonna work.
families that go out and try to fight for their kids and stuff. But hey, I don't know. It's getting to be worrisome. And thinking
Yeah.
about every day what's going
Yeah, Dr. Dula
on.
asked me one time. I'm sorry. He asked me one time. He said, "What is your generation doing to help the advancement of Black people?" And it made me think about it.
He made a good point there. Hmm.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying.
He
He
made
made
a
me
good
think about
point. Yeah.
it. Right.
Hmm.
So I see that, there is a responsibility of this generation, my generation, really, because we're parents now. We're parents of kids, like, of the kids. Some of these kids, like, I have people my age that are great grandparents, and
Grandparents. Yeah.
like, yeah, like grandparents. I mean, and so, and I mean, with old kids, like old great grandkids, like,
Yeah.
so it's
Hmm.
like, where is the parenting? Like, that again, we have to learn how to take care of each other in our community.
Hmm.
And I really think that that's what it starts. It really starts with us really take caring of each other in our community,
Hmm. Hmm.
learning to love ourselves in our community,
Hmm.
um, and showing love instead of fear. So that's one of the big things. Like, a lot of the younger generations say that the older generations don't understand them, and the older generation said, "Well, y'all out here doing crazy stuff, so we don't get that.
Hmm.
We don't get that." So really think that there has to be a coming to Jesus moment, a coming to agreeable terms, a level of understanding and
Mhm.
compassion for both
Yeah.
sides, and
Yeah.
that's gonna take work. I mean, that's gonna take
Oh
work.
yeah.
Somebody
Yeah.
gonna do it.
Somebody's got to be willing to roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty, and that's what we're lacking at. People to come together, and stop being so comfortable in that skin. Just because you got a good job, you driving a nice car, living in a nice house. You just kind of like, hey, it doesn't affect
Not
me.
my problem. Right.
Not my problem. But it does
Yeah.
affect you, and you got to realize that and look at that it affects you. You know.
Yeah.
If it doesn't affect you directly, it affects you indirectly because somebody is going through some crap
That's right.
and they
That
need
is true.
support. But we have just lost it, in our communities. We have just lost it, So,
Yeah. We got to get it together.
yes, yes,
We're
yes,
gonna
yes,
get it
yes.
together. We need more people like you, Reggie. And
I'm getting too old now. I need more people like you.
all right, well, you know what? I'm
We need all the young folks to step up. Like I said, we
yes,
do.
we
And
do.
yeah,
We
and
do.
it seems like the young people aren't interested. They look at the news, they see it on the news, they hear about it, and they just like shrug their shoulders and say, "Oh well, okay, it happened."
They feel like they're. I don't know why they feel like they don't have the power. I mean,
Yeah.
again, it's like they feel powerless, and I'm trying to figure out why. Like I don't.
Hmm.
I don't think it's in my DNA, but
Well,
I
you
need
got.
to, and then, so it is really honestly my goal to um encourage more people my age,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Um,
be someone who speaks up for things like this at my
when
in my
you
age range.
when you have George Wallace, George Wallace is an illegitimate son down in Florida acting a fool. It kind of makes people think, what are we going to do? Because no matter how much we protest down in Florida, fool down there, he's still going to try to push his agenda.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it's
hmm
basically like I want all black folks to move out of Florida.
yeah.
And that seems like the agenda he's pushing. But if you're going to stay in Florida, we're not going to talk about you. We're not going to do Black History. We're not going to do these things. Okay, y'all
You
can
can
live here if
stay,
you want to.
right? You can
You
stay if
know?
you want to, but I'm not going to
Yeah,
acknowledge you.
yeah, yeah. So
So
that
what do you
that'll.
do there, Tommy? What do you say? Do you say move, or do you say I'm gonna stay and fight? Like,
Well, I'll be honest. I couldn't live in Florida. Okay, just because of the politics right now.
hmm
You have to make sure it's all back comes back to voting. You got
hmm
to make sure that people are voting, looking at it and say, I really got to get out and vote. But then you have a problem too, where you have a lot of uh, a lot of retired people who do move to Florida probably couldn't, see themselves as being conservative, so they buy
hmm
into this stuff. Okay,
right.
so then you have a split in the community when it comes to the Latino community, Cuban community, and places like that, where you do have they are very conservative, and that's just what the bottom line is. But I
hmm
think at the same time, with them being conservative, they don't understand the politics.
hmm
So what they might see as a wedge issue might be abortion they don't agree with. They don't dig down further to see what that conservative agenda is all about.
hmm
So they might be voting against abortion, but at the same time, they voting for all the other crap that Santos is doing.
Right. Right. Right.
They don't go far enough to study it. And I think if they would go far enough and study the issues, that they might be allies to the Democrats in Florida to make some changes down there. And right now, he's just enjoying himself, because his legislation is his legislative agenda is controlled by Republicans.
Right. Right.
The
Right.
Democrats have
So,
no power in the House of Florida, and no power in the Senate in Florida.
mm.
So he's just enjoying himself. I'm just having fun, 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 fun. And then he thinks he can take his agenda nationally, but he can't because nationally it's not going to work. People don't want. You got some people that want to hear that crap. The majority of the people don't want to hear that crap. So
Yeah, I mean, he can't come beyond. Well,
yeah, so it's
so
it's
far he
easy.
can only go but so far with that. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's easy to say get up, pack your bags up, and move, but you can't do that. A lot of people just can't up and move to another state.
that's true.
They can't do that, but they got to get out and fight and get involved with the politics of their community.
Right.
And that's what they got to do. That's what
Personal
they're not doing.
responsibility.
So
That's your rightful duty to fight. That's your way
yeah,
of fighting. Mm.
that's right. So tell me about what your show is going to be about. The show that you're doing tonight. What's going to be about?
Tonight I have Ms. Remy Duyele, Dr. Remy Duyele, who is a speaker, author, coach. She actually ran for a state delegate here in Prince George's County, District 23. Um, and she does a lot of things in the community. She is a native Nigerian,
Oh, okay.
and so the show is called Internationally Known. It's talking about Women's History Month. We're going to talk about her journey and what she's doing to connect the continents and the work that she's doing through her business and community advocacy. So
Hmm.
that's what we're talking about tonight.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yes.
Okay. Well, to my audience, we have spent the last hour talking to Krista Glenn, better
Mm-hmm.
known as Smart Video Girl.
All right.
Like
Yes.
that name. Like that name. That's a good.
Thank
That's
you.
a good.
Thank you.
That's a good handle to have. And we've been talking about our community and what we can do and what we're going to do and people. I just want to say you got to get out there and you got to work hard. Okay. We've got to figure it all out. We're not doing a good job with that. Everybody has got to roll their hands up. I'm not saying you got to go there and take over and run around the country, but you got to do your own part in your own community and make a difference. And you know what's
That's
going
right.
on in the community. Be a voice and work on our politicians to bring changes to our communities. And that's what you got to do. Any parting words for our audience before we shut it down?
I just encourage everyone in this effort to, raise the consciousness of the Black community to be your
Hmm.
authentic self. And in your authenticity, then we will be able to grow and you can contribute your special gifts because that is what's needed. I feel if we all take responsibility, own our gifts, and then contribute them to our communities, then we can see the betterment of our communities.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. And before we go, I wanted to ask everyone to go to urbansentinelmagazine.com, www.urbansentinelmagazine.com for the latest edition of this month's, the March edition of Urban Sentinel Magazine. You can click on, download it. This month, I'm being generous. It's a free magazine this month, so go and get it and read it. You can, like I said, you can go to that platform or you can go to issuu.com, click on Urban Sentinel Magazine and enjoy the magazine. We have some great articles in there, some great individuals, and I think you'll really like it. Okay, so please support me with my magazine and my show. Please support introducing what's the name of it again? Your show?
Introducing podcasts with Smart Video Girl.
Yeah,
Introducing. Yep.
yeah, yeah. Introducing podcast, Smart Video Girl. You can find it on YouTube. You just
Mhm.
put that in there, click it, and
Yeah,
enjoy it. So
that's right.
until the next time, I want everybody to have a great week. Continue on pushing hard and working in your community and try to make a difference. Take care. Peace out. Be good to yourselves. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.